So you're playing Genshin, you're doing some 10 pulls, and you get 5-star Kinich. Now, what do you get with Kinich besides the newest Dendro Gamer Boy? Well, Kinich is a Claymore-wielding Dendro user who is another kind of unique character in that he's taking a reaction that wasn't seen as useful, which is burning, and his entire kit kind of revolves around it, just like Emily. And in this video, we are going to look at the basics of Kinich. Now, speaking of Emily, as you can see over here on the side, we do have a team of Emily, Dia, Kinich, and Benny. This is possibly one of, if not his best teams, because all of these characters are going to appreciate Bennett. Emily is going to love the burning. Kinich is going to love the burning. Dia is going to give interruption resistance, as well as being able to do her own damage, having permaproc on VG. All of that being said, we are not using this team in this video because, as you can see right here, Kinich is level 1. I did pull him last night. I had like 30 pulls, and I was at 5 pity, and I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can get Chevy Cons, and I got Kinich instead, which I'm okay with because I have every Dendro character except for Kinich and Baiju, and now I'm only still missing Baiju. So I was going to try and get him anyway. I just wasn't expecting to get him last night. So we are going to be using the trial Kinich. We are going to start by kind of explaining that because he is Thumnail, he does have an overworld movement mechanic, right? With his grappling hook, he is going to kind of be able to swing around. He's also going to have Night Soul Blessing points, which we are going to also talk about. He does differ from Mulanni and Kachina in how they work, but he does have both of those things in his kit. But before we get into how his kit works, let's look at the build of the Kinich that Genshin has given us for the trial. He's level 80 out of 80, 19,000 HP, almost 2,200 attack. Yes, Kinich is an attack scaling character with 155 EM. Split 36 over 182.9 with 135 ER. For weapon, his signature Fang of the Mountain King, a little bit of crit rate, a lot to do with burning or burgeon. For artifacts, Obsidian Codex, so is going to increase his damage, while the Night Soul's Blessing, which is specific to only Natlan characters, it's also going to give him that extra 40% crit rate, so that 36 is 76. C0, talents 888. Let's look at his passive. The first one, when he is in Night Soul's Blessing state, opponents hit by his skill will be put into a Desolation state. If that enemy is affected by Burning or Burgeon, it is going to restore Night Soul points to Kinich. It is going to give him Night Soul points so that we can use his Night Soul's Blessing longer. His second one, after nearby party members trigger Night Soul Burst, which is any party member using a burst if they have a Natlan character in there, a Night Soul's Burst character in there, he will gain 1 stack of Hunter's Experience, maximum of 2 stacks. When he uses the charged version of his skill, it is going to do a lot of damage. It's going to increase the amount of damage that he is dealing, okay? So we're going to talk more about that whenever we show them on the screen. His third passive is going to be the Natlan movement passive, where he will take the field with a different kind of animation. It'll also give him a little bit of Night Soul's Blessing points, right? Real quick, let's look at his normal and his charge attacks. Because they have different animations, his normal attacks, he actually uses the grappling hook to kind of help himself move around. It doesn't do any Dendro, but it looks really, really cool. And his charge attack, he's actually going to throw his claymore, and it's just kind of spin, hitting the enemy. So we don't have any other characters with this kind of charged attack, right? Mulanni did have very unique normal and charge attacks. Kinich is the same. Now, for his skill. Using his skill, he is going to link enemies together with his Dendro grappling hook. Something else that you're going to notice is that the bar on the side of him goes up. Kachina and Mulanni, their bar starts full and decreases. His starts empty, and we have to fill it. We can fill it by affecting enemies with this Dendro grappling hook, as well as in this state using normal attacks to give energy to him, or give Night Soul's Blessing. I don't want to confuse the terms. Night Soul's Blessing points. It is going to fill it whenever we have burning on the enemies. That's what one of those passives was. Now, once we use his skill and we do get that grappling hook, we can use normal attacks, and it is going to kind of swing him around, dealing Dendro damage, also filling the Night Soul's Blessings gauge. When it is full, you'll notice that the skill icon does become available. That is the fully charged skill shot, right? I think they called it the spike cannon shot. It is going to do a ton of damage, and that is what is affected by his second passive. So once we have an enemy set up with a grappling hook, we are going to then be using his normal attacks to kind of move around, dealing Dendro damage, and you're going to see that the gauge is going to fill. There's also going to be a number above his head whenever you have 3, 2, and 1 seconds left on using his skill. So that is going to be a good on-field indicator as to how much time you have left. Now, we do want to cause burning because burning is going to fill the Night Soul's Blessing gauge, so that way we can use his fully charged skill, right? The E again, that's going to light up whenever we have it fully charged. So we want to have burning. Burgeon also works. Like I said at the beginning, he does use this burning reaction to his advantage. Something that Emily also does, which is why him and Emily on the same team is going to be very, very good, because they're both going to be able to use this reaction. We want to hit the enemy with the skill that have burning on them to restore the 7 Night Soul points to him, so that way we can use his spiked cannon, his fully charged skill shot, more often. That's why we want to use burning and or burgeon. So in the trial, you are given Toma and Zhangling because they have phenomenal off-field pyro application for causing the burning on the enemies. So we want to make sure that we're using our other characters' bursts as well to trigger the other passive, right? The Night Soul's Blessing burst. We want to make sure that we have our other characters using their burst, so that way Kinich can take use of that second passive. And speaking of bursts, his burst is going to summon Aha, which is this 8-bit little dragon, and it is going to do intermittent Dendro damage. That's kind of all that it's going to do. It's just going to do damage and apply Dendro. Most of his damage, if not all of his damage, is going to come from his skill. Now, his burst does last longer if he is in Night Soul's Blessing phase, so you kind of want to use one of your other character's bursts, because of the second passive, to get the max stacks for the Canopy Hunter, to get the Scale Spiker Cannon. That's what it's called, not Scale Cannon, or whatever I was calling it. Scale Spiker Cannon. We want to make sure that we're using 2 bursts, right? So you use one character's burst, go into Kinich, use his skill, then use his burst, so that way his burst lasts longer, because it'll be a Night Soul's Blessings form. And then we are going to get the passive max 2 stacks to hit a ton of damage, as well as having burning going on, so that way we can increase the amount of times that we can use the Scale Spike Cannon shot. We got to make sure that we're mixing all of that in together. Now, all of his stuff does include Burgeon as well, so you can use the Burgeon reaction instead of just the burning reaction. Let's say that you don't have Emily, and maybe you have a Burgeon Toma, right? You can use Burgeon instead of strictly burning. So now let's look at the artifacts and weapons, right? So of course he does have Obsidian Codex, which is going to increase his crit rate, making that 36%, 76%. This is also very specific to characters of Natlan that are going to be using their Night Soul's Blessing for damage. So this will be his best set. And it also allows you to kind of invest more into crit damage versus crit rate. That's probably another reason why his weapon only gives like 10% crit rate. Now for the main stats, attack percent, which is going to be really good. He does scale off of attack with crit rate and crit damage in the substats. Dendro damage goblet with, again, crit rate, crit damage, and then a crit damage circlet, because the passive of the artifact set gives you that crit rate. So you don't have to invest a ton into crit rate. For weapons, of course, his signature is going to be good. That 10% crit rate is going to give a little bit, but his entire stacking mechanism from his signature is going to deal with using your elemental skill, causing a pyro-related reaction with burning and burgeon, things like that, to give him stacks to just let him do more damage. Now, outside of his signature, his best free-to-play or 4-star weapon is going to be the Natlan craftable weapon. It's going to get up attack, so it's going to increase your elemental skill damage after causing a pyro-related reaction like burning or burgeon. This is going to increase your damage by 16%. So this is going to be very, very good. You can, of course, R5 this, meaning that you'll be getting a 32% increase, which is going to be great because his damage comes from his skill. Something else that you can do, you could use like Wolf's Gravestone. You could use something like Serpent Spine for a stack stick. You could throw Beacon on him, but Beacon's going to basically be another stack stick in a way. If you don't have his signature, honestly, just go with the Natlan craftable weapon. That is going to be his second best, or his best 4-star, his best free-to-play, whatever you want to look at it as. That is going to be a phenomenal weapon on him. Well, that is going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, do be sure to leave it down in the comments. Myself or somebody else should answer it, and I'll see you in the next one.